to Author Talk. This week we're going to be discussing the graphic novel Mouse by Art Spiegleman. It's kind of a dual plot book. Part of it takes place in modern day, or like modern day. I think it takes place in like the 80s actually. But with Art Spiegleman, the writer of this book, talking to his father, who was a Holocaust survivor, about his experiences during that time. And then the other plot is like the flashbacks of his father's experiences in Nazi Poland.
And just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're discussing Volume 1 in this session, and then next week we're going to finish up with Volume 2. So then that way, if you guys need some time to think about some of the things we talked about, reflect, or just some time to catch up on the reading, you're going to have the ability to do so.
Yeah, so one thing I kind of really got out of this book was Art, who's the writer and illustrator of this book, his kind of struggle between admiring his father as this amazing survivor and also dealing with him in the modern day, because they have definitely a struggle between them, kind of like old versus new generation, and he has a hard time sort of coming to terms with like reconciling the father he knows to the man who survived Nazi concentration camp.
Absolutely, and then we see the struggle to understand where he's coming from. You know, there's one event where the father and the father, whose name is Vladek, and Art, they're walking, and Vladek picks up some telephone wire, and he's like, oh, I can use this, and Art is like, no, I'll buy you another one. And Art doesn't understand that Vladek's kind of quasi-hoarding tendencies it allowed him to survive. It was strictly because he had all of these different objects, and he was able to make valuables and desirables last a long time. So there was one instance where he was able to trade an item for some chocolate with a guard, and then like 2 months later, when he escaped and he's hiding, he was able to give the chocolate as a kind of a bartering chip to the family of the people he was staying with. So in Vladek's mind, having all of these items could be the difference between surviving vis-a-vis trading and dying. So it's almost, I don't know if we could call it like a kind of a symptom of post-traumatic stress. This idea of compulsive keeping of different things in not in the hopes, but in just in case something like that ever happens again. Whereas Art, who was born post-World War II, has never really experienced that type of conflict. So then as a result, he doesn't understand, well, you know, Dad, why are you keeping all of this random junk? And then Dad's like, oh, it'll be useful one day. Because there is a scene in the beginning where he says, oh, that stuff will be useful, and it is useful. Like, I think he was telling his first wife about the dolls, right? Hold on to it, you'll need it. And then there's a little box that's like, and we did need it. It made us survive like 5 months later or whatever.
Yeah. He said, save the doll collection. And she's like, that's not important. He's like, just save it because we can sell it. Yeah,
exactly. So he's always thinking 3 steps ahead just in case the unthinkable happens, because he's a survivor. And Art, who is and not to critique Art, but, you know, the people who were born post-World War II and post that kind of dire conflict don't quite understand as much, especially since this takes place in the 80s and he's roughly 30. He's like a 70s child or a 60s child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did you think about the different animals? Because, like, the Jews are represented as mice, or Polish Jews, I guess, are represented as mice, and Polish non-Jews are presented as pigs.
As pigs, yeah. So I didn't know.
Some of them are like cute pigs, like friendly pigs.
And some of them are like angry, evil-looking pigs. I didn't quite know is that Art's critique of them as, because like when you think of pig, you don't have a flattering view of the animal. So is that, you know, the Polish betrayed the Jews? Like, is it that sort of angle he's trying to go for, because then the Americans are portrayed as dogs too. Now the dog can have a variety of symbolism. It could be, you know, you're a dog and that's a negative connotation, or dogs
but the
as
Nazis
loyal.
are cats.
Well, dogs are cats.
And it's often like when World War II is simplified a lot, it's often seen as like the Americans sort of like chasing the Nazis away, which would make sense with dogs and cats.
Absolutely. So I don't think there's any other animal, at least in volume 1, that's presented in the books, at least in volume 1. But I really like, I really like Mouse because it allows, and this is going at it from a teacher angle, it allows readers who may be reluctant readers or non-readers to engage in the text because it involves the incorporation of both the visual and the written. So every child knows the kind of cartoonish stereotype of cats versus mice. It's very Tom and Jerry-esque, although without the somewhat camaraderie that happens later on, you know? And so I think when art uses animals as symbols or as a metaphor of the people, I think it works really well because those relationships are already ingrained into us via media, via cartoons. You know, it's similar to how in Animal Farm by Orwell, Orwell was able to use animals as replacement for people. You know, and you know, so going off on that idea, what do you think are some of the unique challenges in reading a graphic novel versus a strictly comic book or a strictly novel, like a dense Victorian-esque novel?
I'm not sure. I would say definitely with Mouse, I had a little trouble with, the pictures are quite small, and the text is almost like handwritten looking. And so I had a little bit of trouble because my eyesight is bad. So I had a little bit of trouble kind of like figuring out what was supposed to be happening where. At least at the beginning, I kind of like worked it out after a while, and then I got into the groove of it. But that might be difficult if people like me have bad eyesight. It's a little difficult to figure out like what exactly is happening in a picture. But I think it's also difficult to sort of suss out a plot, because this book is very, at volume 1 at least, is very domestic, let's say. Like, there's a lot of, you know, in the flashbacks there's Nazi stuff going on, but it's not really. It's more like their home life, and then later like hiding. And then Art, you know, is just fighting with his stepmother about his father's cheapness and whatnot. So I think I don't think it's actually a challenge. I think it's actually kind of a benefit, because as they're pictures, you're not sitting there reading going like, why is he describing like sitting at a table with his father for like 50 pages? Because it gets it done and you can move on.
Absolutely. You know, what's really unique about graphic novels is that reading them is such a different experience. So yes, you read the text and then you read the picture, and then you almost have to then a third time read them simultaneously to see how the picture and the text influence each other. So that's why I think it's so important, especially at the public school level, of students getting experience with reading graphic novels. Because sure, you could read Night or you could read The Book Thief, all very good books. But with this, you can actually see the fear on the faces of the pigs when Vladek and his wife come, and they're like, no, you have to leave, or else the Gestapo will come and I'll be in trouble. You know, you're able to say a whole bunch without actually writing it down. And that's important because students who have a fear of, how shall I put this, you open up a book and it's all words. Students who have that kind of shock fear of words will, I think, approach this book a lot more willingly, because there's pictures, okay, and there's some dialogue, okay. And then they might have more to put into the text, and therefore more cooperation.
And
in getting involved.
Definitely, pictures definitely are able to convey a feeling a little easier than just words. Words can do it too, but you have to be a very talented author to convey the same kind of feeling. Where, you can go and look at a painting or something and be like, oh, that makes me feel like creeped out, or like it makes me feel happy, or whatever.
The shadow behind the cabin. What is it?
Yeah,
just a smudge.
And the pictures in Mouse can make you feel the same way. Definitely when they Vladek is talking about being a soldier in the first time. So when he was a POW, he uses a lot of harsh shadows from behind with the Gestapo in front, and it does convey a sort of like sinisterness.
That you wouldn't see in a novel, or at least wouldn't see as clearly. Speaking of Vladek, I'd like to get your opinion on how you feel he is portrayed as a character. As I was reading, he seemed to be portrayed as kind of the old Jewish stereotype of like the miserly Jew, and I'm glad that Art does say in one scene, he was talking to his stepmother, and he's like, "Hey, I've been looking through my notes, and as my dad is talking, he seems to like convey the stereotype. Is this a problem or something?" So, I'm just wondering, because there was that one scene in the beginning with his first girlfriend, and he really emphasized, she was a nice girl, and we hooked up a few times, but she has no dowry. And then I met Anya, and she has money, and he keeps bringing up that fact. And I was like, oh, it's really kind of hitting home. It's like, yes, we get it. Do you now? I know this is based on people, so you can't really say like, this is a stereotype when it's actually based on a person.
Yeah.
Do you think? What do you think about it, or what do you think about the first relationship that they had?
I mean, this is, like you said, this is based on a real person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times stereotypes exist because they have at least some little bit of truth to them. They're just exaggerated a lot. But Vladek, kind of cheap. Yeah, I mean, and that just probably comes from growing up in economic, not good times. I can't think of the word, but economic depression. There we go.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then later, like the war, just probably made it worse. And with the dowry thing, that's a little weird. But that might be a Polish thing. I'm not sure.
Okay, so you think it might be a cultural thing because that kind of, I mean, I don't know. We're 21st century folk talking about 20th century folk, but the idea of like, oh, she had no dowry, she's undesirable. It's like, whoa, dude, like, come on, you can't hook up with her and just be like, sorry, we're done.
I mean, he did convey some worry that he was afraid Anya would think that he was with her just for the money, and he said that's not the case. He really did like her. So
do you think he liked the first girlfriend, or did he just use her?
I don't know, because he, like, this is told from his point of view, so it's kind of difficult to say, but
exactly,
he does say like he wasn't really that interested in the first place, even before he knew like about the dowry or whatever. His friend was just like, oh, all the ladies wanted to be introduced to me, and then his friend is like, my friend wants to be introduced to you, and it seems like this woman is just like throwing herself upon him, and like he doesn't actually want that. He's just like, all right, like, crazy lady, like, I'll take you out to a movie maybe, but like, go away. Yeah,
exactly. And then I know we were talking about this before. There's the idea of what was happening behind the scenes. Like, it's from his point of view, so he's not going to sit there and say, yeah, I was a real dog, but oh well, I got So it might be the case where they were really intimately involved, and then when he got with Anya, suddenly it's like, nope, you're done, and then gave her the cold shoulder, and that explains her kind of hysterics. But of course, and especially, we're talking about like, what, at this point it's like 40, 50 years or 30 years or whatever, a long time has passed. When people's memory tries to retroactively justify their actions in order to make themselves see themselves in a better light. So it might very well be the case where he led her on, and him as an old man just remembering like, no, I was very neutral, but she just wanted me. And,
something else I found very interesting about the actual like drawing of this book is that when Vladek goes into the world, I guess, like after
when he escapes the first time, the Polish POW camp.
Yeah, after he leaves the Polish POW camp, when he goes out into the world, he's drawn as wearing a mask, a pig mask.
I loved that.
And that's something that you can't really convey in words. And I understand the basic idea
because
of
he's passing.
Right?
Yeah,
he's
I
passing as a Polish person who's not a Jew.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to use a mask because Art draws himself on. Well, I guess it's on the back of the other one, but
like this, right?
No.
Is this Art? No.
No, I guess it's in volume 2 or like at the end of volume 2.
Oh.
But wait, is this it? No, here. Okay, so in this picture, his artist's picture.
A human with a mouse head.
Yeah,
that's kind of scary a little
bit. He draws. Well, it's a mouse mask. You can see there's a.
Oh, it's okay.
So.
Sorry, I went full on nightmare.
He draws himself with a mouse mask, which is interesting.
Interesting. So I wonder if he thinks he's passing as someone who's Jewish, but maybe he has some kind of uncertainty about how Jewish is he type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to me that he's by heritage he's Jewish, but maybe he's not practicing. So interesting,
huh? One question. Okay, so at the end of volume 1, Vladek and his son Art, they have a kind of not really a fight, but kind of like a one-sided fight where Vladek says, "Oh, those journals, yeah, I threw them out. I burned them. Sorry."
Art's mother's journals.
Yeah. So Anya, she, in the modern time, she's dead because she died of.
She killed herself.
She killed herself. I was thinking of her mother who died of cancer. She killed herself, but it was revealed that she wrote journals from the time when she was separated from her father and the time she was in the camps, and that would have added a lot to the story. Do you think, now I know you said you read volume 2, I haven't yet read it, do you think that Vladek is telling the truth when he said he threw out the journals? Because at first, he said, "Oh yeah, I'll look for them. They're somewhere upstairs or whatever." And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh wait, I remembered. The journals were thrown away all those times ago. Sorry." Because our Art says, "Oh, I'll go upstairs and look for them." He's like, "No, they're thrown away. They're thrown." So he seemed kind of dodgy on the issue. So I'm wondering, is he trying to keep Art from seeing them? Is it like... So what do you think?
I'm pretty sure he threw them away. He actually burned them, he said.
Okay.
But I think part of the reason he said, like, "No, we'll look for them later, but now come help me with the roof," or like whatever he wanted him to do. I think it's partly because Art and him, they do seem to have kind of a strained relationship.
Yeah,
already.
they do. Because beforehand they didn't speak for 2 years, right? I think.
Yeah, and I think he seems thrilled, like absolutely thrilled that Art is there and visiting him, and he calls him sweetie, and he's like, no, you'll have the best hangers, and we'll give you the best food, and like you'll
that ratty coat that got thrown out too.
He threw away Art's coat.
Here, have this coat. It's too big, Dad. It's better.
Yeah, but so I think he's just kind of afraid that he's going to run Art away. Which he does at the end, because he reveals that he burned the journals, and Art like freaks out. And I think he knew that was going to happen if he says, "I got rid of your mother's journals." But on the other hand, you can kind of understand why he did, because he said it was in a fit of like depression.
Yeah, that's
true. And like his wife had killed herself, and he just couldn't stand to look at this anymore, so he burned them. Yeah. And so you can kind of see both.
Absolutely.
Points of view on that.
Do you think the depression was recurring, or it's separate from her first depression when she had Rishu?
I think it's recurring. Depression is definitely something that cycles, and I think she was just kind of maybe a depressed person, and I don't know why that at that point she decided to kill herself after surviving Auschwitz and everything, but you never know why. Like sometimes it just gets too much for people. Absolutely, yeah. But they did say she had a nervous breakdown. Yeah. And then they went somewhere, I don't remember, but they went somewhere nice, like a sanitarium, and they were like, "Yay, now I'm better. Not depressed anymore. Oh, like the Nazis." Oh shit.
Yeah, that when she and it's really amazing because Vladek really was with her every step of the way. You know, he left his factory.
He really did care about her.
Oh, absolutely. And that sanitarium did look nice. I mean, dancing, and I was like, oh wow, because like nowadays, I mean, you think of going to a mental sanitarium. It doesn't invoke pleasant images. It's like you're not going to a resort. So I was like, good for them. Good for them for having nice.
Yeah,
mental
I
health
think this
facilities.
was meant for like not like dangerous insane people.
Yeah, exactly. And they were also well to do too. So it wasn't like yeah.
They owned a factory, and so yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This book is kind of interesting too because so it's the next book that focuses on the actual concentration camp.
Volume 2, talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Volume 2. This book, I think it does a good job because when you see Holocaust movies like Schindler's List or like Anne Frank or whatever, it does kind of seem like they always kind of start with the Nazis and the Gestapo have already taken over.
Already there.
And it's already this like dystopian horror place. But it's kind of nice to see just like day-to-day life. Like we're not like we're affected, but we still go about our days. Like we still have a business to run. Blah 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 blah.
So it's the slow progression. Like at first they weren't in Poland, but on the border towns you can see the Nazi flag. And then they are in Poland, but they kind of left the people alone. And now they're in Poland, and they're not leaving the people alone. And now they're in Poland, and they're not leaving the people alone, and they're killing them. You know, so there's the progression. It's not just like, yesterday Germany was fine. Today they are Nazis.
Yeah, and you don't immediately go from like one day you're fine, and the next day you're in hiding.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, like there has to be some progression, and even when you're in hiding, like. That's kind of boring. Like, you still have a day-to-day, like, routine and stuff. It's not, like, constant terror all the time.
Exactly. So the pacing is really wonderful in Mouse.
Yeah.
And going back to with the pictures, I was so fascinated with the drawings of the hiding places and how they would be like, here's one hiding place which is below the fake wall, which is below the wall of coal, and or like
he like dug it out or something.
Yeah, or like the one with the grandparents, where it's like, here's a shed and here's the tools and here's the grandparents. And I was like, that's really interesting. Oh wow, and it really shows what it's trying to convey right there in one image, rather than like spending half a page or a page explaining it. And
it was interesting too because they were living with a Polish woman at one point.
Yeah, she was the governess or whatever.
Yeah, the governess.
Yeah.
She was governess.
And she was like, oh, I think you guys are like family. And then when they come to her, no, go away. And then she felt guilty. I was like, no, come here.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought was interesting because it kind of shows like, the non-Jewish people. I shouldn't say regular people. Non-Jewish people. They the kind of struggle that they went through too, because they don't necessarily feel that this is correct and that like Jewish people should be taken away, but on the same hand they have self-preservation as well.
Exactly. So they're like, it's not me, so let me not get the spotlight onto.
Yeah, and so like they want to help. At least some of them want to help, but when crunch time comes, they're like, I can't.
Exactly.
I'm too scared. I'm sorry. Go away.
Exactly. But then there's the day-to-day fear too. So Anya helps the little boy with his German, and then the little boy is like, the teacher asked me how I know German, and then Anya's like, and then she's like, oh, I told him my mom helped me. And she's like, oh, thank God, good boy.
It's like, that part kind of made me laugh a little because it's like I think the boy would like understand that, but maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, the secret people we hide in our house has told me. What? Oh, okay, little boy.
Yeah.
Hello, Nazis. Yes.
Yeah, which did happen.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. There were many instances in Volume 1 where they confide in someone and then they get ratted out. Like they were hiding in the upstairs attic, and then one of them was like, oh, I'm hiding with my family too, and then he immediately goes and tells the Nazis, and I was like, that's happens, despicable. I know it happened,
like
but just
towards the
despicable.
end of Volume 1, where they decide like, well, this is too much. We're gonna go to Hungary, and Anya actually is like, no, I've had like really terrible dreams about this. Like, I think we should stay here. I'm scared. And Vladek is like, no, we gotta go. And they had a family friend who had gone to Hungary and like sent a letter saying like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's safe, come and join me. And so they get everything together and they go to the train station, and the people who were gonna like smuggle them, I guess, to Hungary, one of them goes and like makes a phone call, and they're like, "Oh, what's he doing?" And they're like, "Oh, it's fine, whatever." They get on the train, and guess what? Nazis. And then that's how they end up at Auschwitz. At the end of the Volume 1, they end up at the gates there.
It would have been interesting to see the Hungarians. I mean, it might be in Volume 2, but how the Hungarians are portrayed. Like, I wonder if it was like co-conspirators to the Germans, or they're like cat-like, or that would be interesting. Maybe they're cows or something. Wouldn't that be strange?
Yeah.
It's like, here's birth of the cow, and it's like, oh, okay. Oh, those Hungarians.
And it is funny because no matter what nationality they are, Jews are always mice.
Exactly.
So but they're kind of connected in like Judaism. So that's interesting as well.
Yeah.
So, Volume 1 kind of ends on a depressing note because they end up at the gates of Auschwitz, and Art runs away from his father, telling him he's a murderer because he destroyed journals.
Burned the journals, yep.
So, it's kind of a heavy book.
But so far, we definitely recommend it. It's a really great journey to go on, especially through the medium of the graphic novel.
Yeah, it's a very good way to see like daily life during Nazi Poland, and how the descendant of a concentration camp survivor kind of reconciles everything as well.
Absolutely.
So it's very good. It's very fascinating, and next week will be Volume 2, so we'll be discussing that. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.